It is said, on the final days of planet Earth, everybody had bad takes. Hello and welcome to our commentary of Doctor Who The End of Time Part 1. Who's this?
I don't know, who are you?
There is someone here, I knew it!
I'm sorry, I've been hiding in the background the whole time.
Are you the ghost of Christmas past, present or future?
Oh, it's gotta be future. It's gotta be future.
Hello Richie, pleasure for you to join me today for this Christmas special.
Of an episode that we've had, I'm pretty sure, no agreements on ever?
No. Do you want to remind everyone how we first interacted online?
I will do as such. A very, very long time ago when I was a wee little lad, I made a video ranking the Tennant specials, and this YouTuber, his name's Samuel Davis, you know, I'm a big fan, but he doesn't like an episode I like, so I think I'll just lose my mind at him for about 10 to 15 minutes, you know? Nothing wrong with that.
I think it can be best described in that video as a crisis.
Yeah, good way to describe it.
Although, to be fair, in all fairness, I have spent a lot of my time with this episode online just shit-talking it and not expanding on it at all. I don't really go into my points ever, actually.
Yeah, I think that was one of the reasons why I did it. Because you said so much about part 2, and I was like, yes, finally someone else sees it. And then with part 1, it was just like, oh, I just don't like it. And I was like, man.
Yeah, well, to me, I can draw that line down the middle. I really can. I definitely did on broadcast, and hopefully we can get into some of that today.
You'll definitely remember this on broadcast more than I was, because I was 5 when this first came out.
Oh my. Oh, so this is proper foundational Who then?
Oh yeah, like, this is one of the earliest stories I can remember seeing it live, because I remember distinctly seeing the 10th Doctor regenerate, just absolutely destroyed us when I was little.
Just that image of a spiky-haired man burning to a crisp.
It terrified us.
It traumatized you. I would have been about 14, I believe, when I saw this. So it probably is the age where, if you are going to go for a phase of, I'm too old for this show, maybe it coincidentally would have tied in with this. But I will stand by the point that even as an adult, with my adult sensibilities, this is the episode that would do that to you.
As much as I love this episode, I will admit there are some bits that are very, very over the top. I adore over the top.
It's definitely very Davis. I think he lost his mind, but deep down he's still a genius, so you get both happening on screen at the same time.
Yeah. I'd definitely say that some of this has its intentional crazy bullshit as well, like the Vinvoce.
The Vinvoce, the car alarm.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is his most batshit story. I think it's the most unapologetically ridiculous one he did, at least.
I really like the opening, like, subversion, like, because the cliffhanger at Waters of Mars was just so deadly, so, like, out of nowhere, to follow it with the Doctor trying to just brush it all off and act as if nothing's happening. I really like that.
It's important, too, because he's not entirely sympathetic. He's kind of learned some lessons from Waters of Mars.
Oh, yeah.
And even though there's been this massive gulf of a time skip that just increases every single year with Big Finish,
yeah,
he's fairly dislikable in this story, but in the best of ways. I think you'll find we end up agreeing on quite a bit. It's just I can't get past certain crazy visuals and certain creative choices.
Probably. I might come around on some of it, to be honest, because I haven't seen this story in about just over a year from now.
Davis is already a really vibrant, cheesy writer. But when it comes to Christmas and he's writing Christmas telly, that's where it gets even more elevated than usual.
Oh, yeah.
And I think him balancing that with epic finale staging is a very thin line to walk. How about that?
Voyage of the Damned at some point almost does feel like a parody of itself. Because of how just insane it is. Like, the moment where Astrid uses the forklift to throw Max over the ledge, I'm always like, what tone is this going for? The music's telling me something, the visuals are telling us something else.
That's the perfect explanation as to how I feel about that story and also this episode's finale. You just nailed it.
I think we'll definitely disagree with the final scene, because I absolutely adore it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I could talk about John Sims' Master, like, through this entire, like, thing without even mentioning this story. I rewatched the Series 3 finale recently, and his character is fantastic.
Every year passes and I find myself even more firmly in the Rusty Davis camp than the year before. No, I'll always be defending the Sim Master. There's so many genuinely scary nuances to the cartoonish villainy on display.
Oh yeah, one of the criticisms that always annoys us with his master is how people say he's just cartoony over the top, as if that's not a mask for like his deeper and more tortured nature,
which he makes very apparent very often. He's portrayed as a tragic character in here for the first time. Welcome to our end of time commentary, where Richie will now defend the Master's voodoo return and him then shooting Sith lightning. The floor's yours.
Okay, so
never dying, never dying.
The connection of the Master still being on Lucy's lips is just absolute bullshit, and I don't know why I ever defended it. I'm just going to say that now.
No, listen, right, I can't be dragging down all of your opinions.
No, not all of them, but that in particular. I think the rest of this is actually somewhat believable. I just wish there was more of it. Like, you know, the Master having a secret cult, I could buy a character as intelligent as him doing that, considering he, like, let himself die on purpose.
But to establish in one scene, 2 or 3 minutes, that there is a Saxon cult, huge idea, absolutely crazy, that Lucy Saxon is watching her ex-abuser come back to life in front of her, has also prepared a backup plan to stop this revival using science magic, and yet he survives anyway. It's just a barrage of magic techno shit.
Yeah. I'm sort of like, I can believe this one, but then there's like another 4 stages of it, and I'm like, okay, you lost us at the second one.
It's a whole episode of subplot details put into 3 minutes, so of course it's absolutely insane.
Like, you could do an entire story resurrecting the Master, and they do it here in like legit 5 minutes.
That's not, honestly, we have a lot of runtime in part 1. I genuinely think this episode uses its hour runtime really strangely.
Did we really need this over more explanation on how the Master comes back? Because Lucy hasn't wiped her lips in like 3 years.
There's just several ways to revive the Master. Any one of the 4 things Russell goes with in this scene would suffice. But also, just if the Time Lords bring him back? Because they're going to be using him regardless for their master plan.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that makes so much more sense. Just...
Right.
They use him to get, like, Gallifrey back. Why not use him and then, like, it fucks up because the Master tries to escape it or something. That's how he gets his Chicken Lord powers.
Never dying, never dying.
I can't wait until we get to the electric lightning bit and I defend that. That's going to be great.
Oh, that'll be round 2.
Oh, yeah.
I like this story a lot more than I let on. I really do.
I'm glad to hear it.
It's just, I always say Davis should maybe be reined in every now and then.
That's why I'm quite interested to see what his takes on it are going to be like now when he comes back, because he's a very versatile writer. Like, he's obviously not going to do the same thing, but there'll probably be some elements from before.
We'll still be subject to the odd Davis ex machina, because that's just...
It's inevitable.
That's just built in to
Yeah.
this man and his writing, even in his more recent stuff. The AIDS virus as a Deus ex machina.
Does it really?
No. No, I'm talking about it's a sin. And Bit making a woefully inappropriate joke.
Oh, I thought you were serious for a second.
Samuel, cut it in the edit. Edit, Samuel. Cut that.
Cut this bit out. The resolution at Journey's End is unforgivable.
Pretty much all of them, I'd say. Including this story. But when it's tied in with so much like emotional closures, you don't mind as much. And that's why I do forgive Russell when it comes down to it.
On paper, the idea of the Time Lords are back, they're there for 10 minutes, and then they're gone. On paper, you're sort of like, oh, is that it? But then when you see the scene in part 2 and how much is done for the Master and the Doctor, just from like their facial expressions alone, it's incredible how much is done in such a short amount of time.
And that is the substance on screen. It's not the fact that there's a box behind the Master that, when blown up, ends the story. You don't care about that.
Oh yeah.
If you're paying attention to the box when Sim's desperate pleading face is in front of it, your priorities are twisted. Oh, sorry, we're missing the Wilf dance.
Oh my god, we've missed the Wilf wiggle. Now we need to rewind.
Okay, I take it back. This is a 10 out of 10, Richie.
Yeah, straight 10. I swear they spend more time with the Silver Cloak than the Master's resurrection.
Definitely they spend more time with the old age pensioners than the 2 millionaires. the two main villains of the piece, apparently, who I can't tell you the first thing about.
What I can tell you from all my analysis of this story is that they are plot.
Davis doesn't even try with them. He just... Rich people bad. And we're like, yeah, rich people are bad, Russell.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of capitalism.
This time he stops there. We don't get Henry Van Statten. We don't get a Max Capricorn. They just evacuate the story. Now, the Master's good. Rassilon's good. To me, Minnie is the ultimate villain in this one.
Is that your hand, Minnie?
I think she should be brought to justice. Does it say something that Rusty Davis is slyly laughing at a bit of sexual harassment when we know the state of his own sets?
It's a bit sus.
I think that's a point I definitely don't have to say on the internet. How can he fly, Russell? How can he fly?
Imagine if in Star Wars the Emperor used his lightning and just pointed at the ground and flew away.
See, if that's even ridiculous for Emperor Palpatine in Star Wars, how ridiculous is it for Doctor Who?
How, if he uses the lightning and points it at the ground to go up, how does he, control how high he goes up? What if he just launched himself to space accidentally?
These are the questions.
These questions have never came into my mind before. Now I'm just thinking about, yeah, it's kind of goofy.
I really like this. Not only because I like to see John Sim get to show some range as a little goblin man. I love goblin men. But he's genuinely great at it. Giving us a look into the Master as a homeless, animalistic monster with a total greed for life it's a brilliant new take.
I think it's absolutely fascinating. It's such a sharp contrast to the last time we've seen him, on top of the world, practically unstoppable. And then now, he's desperate, he's homeless, he's eating homeless people. Oh, it's time for the best line in Doctor Who history. Dinner time!
He licks them clean like Looney Tunes.
I find it hilarious that he skinned them alive, put the clothes on, and stood them back up. he just goes out of his way to be a dick. Oh, this is the greatest piece of fiction ever made.
That is Kino, actually. Tennant spends a lot of this story looking very forlorn. When I made my opening for this story, it is just, there's so much to work with because every shot is so nice. I think this is Euros Lynn's final directing credit for the program.
It was, yeah.
It's excellent. Look at where we are. It's nothing impressive, and it looks grand.
The Doctor is actually just standing on a pile of rubble, but it looks cool. How?
Yes. In some ways, this is lame because they're saying stuff like King of the Wasteland, and we're literally just in some docks. But then you're reminded this episode apparently is all been predicted. It's all prophesized, which Russell really started loving in his later years, didn't he?
He did love a good prophecy.
Okay, I was definitely 14 looking at the screen laughing. No, that's the thing though. I wasn't laughing because I was 14 and I took the show very, very seriously. I think I've said before End of Time was the first time I felt self-conscious watching Doctor Who.
Yeah, I think I recall that quote.
Yeah, so maybe that's where some of the bias comes from. It made me feel embarrassed that I was watching Doctor Who on Christmas, and I think that's really disheartening.
I went through a similar thing when I was 9, watching Series 7.
A disheartened 9-year-old. World weary.
I was actually disenfranchised 9-year-old boy sitting with his mum and dad and brother watching Doctor Who.
Jesus Christ. Uh-oh, Minnie's on the scene. Watch out. Keep your eyes on her.
Oh no. Cut it here.
Can't even sexually assault someone anymore. Jesus. We can agree now that this story is just a masterpiece of acting. I think it is the best performed episode of the show.
I'd say that without a doubt. I think there's a perfect highlight scene for every actor in this story, which highlights just how incredible they are in these roles. David Tennant's breakdown in part 2, John Sim in the whole thing, Bernard Cribbins in the ship in the space ship in part 2, where he's talking about space.
Oh yeah, no, that's probably my favourite scene in all Doctor Who.
I absolutely love it.
Not in this episode. It's fitting we're talking about good acting, because we're coming into another one of David Tennant's best scenes. It's crazy how he's going from career best to career best, from Waters the Mars to this and then the finale. And they're all so different. They're such different portrayals of the Doctor.
He has such huge range in this role. I think it's really underappreciated, like, how distinctly different he is all the time.
No, Richie, you know, he just says the 3 catchphrases. That's all he does. Allons-y.
What?
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
That's all he is.
That's
all he ever
does.
does.
Including this scene where, have we ever seen the Doctor break out in tears before? And if we haven't, if that's un-Doctor-like to you, then it shouldn't be.
It really shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, the Doctor should be doing that more often then, because that's where drama lives in modern-day television.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I became so disenfranchised with watching Classic Who, because this might be a very personal thing, but the drama for me in Classic Who, it's never sold. This is why I stopped watching it, because I can't get invested in most of the characters.
And a lot of fan work exists to implant drama and characterization in the classic series.
Yeah, I've noticed lots of people who talk about the 5th Doctor refer to his arc, which is completely retroactively made for Big Finish. Yes. Where is this coming from? I've got nothing.
You're right, and Tennant set the template there, absolutely. Do we need Donna in this story?
I will admit, no. No.
It's not too much to ask to find her something to do, right? All she provides is another cliffhanger.
And on top of the 47 we already had, I don't really think we needed one.
Say goodbye to the freak, Grandad. I think it's just lingering on the fact that Journey's End is a horrific ending to the character. It's perfectly ironic, it's very dramatic. It's also very disturbing and depressing. Like, we know that Moffat would revisit similar territory, so just to catch up with her in her own personal hell that she was begging to not be put into, it rubs me the wrong way a bit.
I think the only scene that's fully necessary with her is the wedding scene in part 2.
Yes.
That's sort of like...
Yeah, because that does bring her an iota of happiness. I can believe that she can become a happy person.
It's a very bittersweet scene as well, because despite all the friends she made with the Doctor, none of them could go and visit her. That bit of acting from David Tennant's incredible. It's amazing.
And Cribbins! Just, it's all in the eyes.
That's so good!
It's when the voice cracks on. I did some things. It got out of control. My mind breaks. Especially now we know that the Time Lord Victorious event is also being referenced there retroactively. I like to think that Rassilon's narration here is him talking to the High Council of Gallifrey, just telling them the plot synopsis of End of Time Part 1.
It's Russell's self-insert into the story.
Fun fact, my girlfriend keeps the books on Timothy Dalton's retirement fund.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you earned it, Timothy. Go wild.
Man, he's such an underrated actor.
I would cast him in pretty much anything except James Bond.
Oh, the shade.
I can't help myself with the hot takes. I say something completely reasonable and I have to finish it off with something controversial. It's an affliction. My turn. What is the point of the Sith powers?
I would say they were purely invented for the climax of part 2. But they do go a bit far.
Again, I like the shots, but you go from one cool shot to an outright ridiculous one. There's a part in my soul that still finds it a little bit cool, though. I'm thinking me and my action figures, and of course the Master has lightning powers when I'm playing with my action figures. Well, they're just there for a couple explosions, and so the Master can jump a few feet at the end of the cliffhanger. But, again, now it's over. Now people have got their Christmas action, which is probably what Russell was thinking.
Stick him in the trailers.
We get a really heartfelt meeting of souls. And it's another fucking great scene.
This scene goes so under the radar. There's so much for the Master here, which never gets talked about.
Yeah, big time. A memory of them playing as children.
Something I've noticed, you've probably noticed as well a lot with Russell's era, a character will bring up something the other one doesn't want to talk about, and the other one will just start talking over it, as if that didn't even happen. It goes on here. The Doctor tries connecting to the Master. He's talking about all the people he's killed. Was it necessary? Was it worth it? And the Master just starts rambling on about Christmas dinners.
Yeah, he's barely even making sense here, which is tragic. I think he's being portrayed as a tragic, sympathetic figure in this one, which is fucking nuts considering his last story. He's ill. In this one, he's just an ill man.
Like, he's completely mentally ill in this one.
Yeah, the Doctor says, "How many people have you killed?" He replies with, looking at him desperately. I am so hungry. Like, that's his answer, as well as just the fact that in his animal brain at the minute, he's very hungry.
This bit here, where the doctor tries talking about the prophecy, and you can see him, like, he's got his hands on his head, he's in pain, he's desperate. He starts begging the doctor just to hear the noise. It's drove him completely up the bend. It's a rare sight to see the Master so vulnerable as he is in this story.
It's a little bit of an interesting role reversal here, because we've got a unlikable, prideful 10. The Doctor put the Master to shame just one episode ago in Waters of Mars. And here we've got a almost pitiable Master.
Yeah.
Our three main players are all facing the same problem. They're all lusting for life. We've got Rassilon, who refuses to die.
I will not die!
We've got the Master, who's clinging to whatever form of life he's currently in as a walking zombie. And we've got the Doctor himself, who will deny his own death at any turn possible.
Yeah. I never actually noticed that connection between all of the characters.
That's why I find Wilf important to this story as well. He's not just a pawn to be moved around the board, get some good scenes out of, and then chuck him in the booth at the end. He's not just prophecy bait. He's not. He's also in a story about people clinging to life.
I'm an old man, Doctor. I've had my time.
So someone embracing his mortality in juxtaposition to everyone else here.
Yeah.
Jesus, I wasn't expecting to go this hard in on End of Time Part 1.
Told you, man. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
in my
it's
insane
there.
rant throwing stools.
Yeah, you do throw stools. That was my first impression of you, by the way.
Oh, that's
Shit-talking me and then throwing a
great first impression.
I've been informed for legal purposes that this is a character.
Yes, just get that information out there, because some people still aren't aware, which is unfortunate.
Oh no, mine is, I'm never a character, I really am this pretentious. So, it's kind of insanity when you think about it, how Russell kept having to up himself. This finale has to compete with Last of the Time Lords, Journey's End, and Waters of Mars. So this is big event TV.
Yeah, despite being a story about the actual end of time itself, the most extravagant place like the Doctor and Wilf go is just in a spaceship orbiting Earth. And that exists purely for a moment of connection between the characters and time for the Master to set up.
Like, we've been just around docks and Donna's house for a long time.
Yeah, you wouldn't think a story called The End of Time would have so many personal moments in it.
Grounded. It's dudes hanging out, not happening to know that a lot depends on it. Wilf is fated to find the Doctor. Minnie's hand was foretold.
No!
The cacti people are prophecy.
I wonder if there was a cut speech from Rassilon talking about the Vin Voce being important,
It'd have
being
to be.
integral.
The plants of planet Earth convened.
I also think the reason why Wilf works so effectively at this is because if you think about the 10th Doctor at the beginning of his life, he was with the youngest companion, and now he's with an older, experienced person who's lived their full life, compared to someone who barely even really started life.
Yeah, the fact that Wilf is a character with such gravitas and charm that you can buy him being a father figure to the Doctor in this. This story lays it on thick that they both kind of see each other that way.
And it works so naturally as well.
How lovely and impressive is that when you really think about it? Him running away from Sylvia. That's the best motive for becoming a TARDIS companion ever. 5 seconds away from having her brain explode. Actually, talking about Donna, I was thinking whilst watching Flux, do you think she saw the Sontarans about?
I'll be honest, I don't think... She was probably asleep in Spain.
She was hungover that day. Yeah, fair enough.
She was hungover for...
It's a defense mechanism all along, so that she doesn't awaken Time Lord memories. She was on holiday in France and someone says Allons-y and her brain explodes. Okay, now I need to talk about Bernard Cribbin's reaction to the TARDIS.
Oh,
He says,
what a scene.
I thought it'd be cleaner, which is almost identical to the joke Donna makes when she first gets on in Partners in Crime.
Was it?
Although frankly, you could turn the heating up.
Yeah, they say they have a very similar complaint. Like grandfather, like granddaughter.
The Doctor simply cannot be sad. He's a man defined by never being sad.
We cannot test our main character emotionally.
Ever. Context? Never heard of her.
He is hero archetype. He should go to his death completely smiling every time.
Nope. Gotta be perfect. All the time. Perfect.
The fact this episode presents regeneration as a kind of death. Oh, we need to talk about that as well. It happened earlier. Yeah. That's an excellent idea of Russell's that makes a regeneration story feel more important. It raises the stakes. It makes regeneration not a cop-out card. The Doctor isn't immortal or invincible.
I think it's absolutely fascinating. 9 and 10's arc have been so well connected, and 9, one of his most defining moments in Father's Day, you know, where he's like, I've never had a life like that. And the 10th Doctor, multiple times, he gets so close to having a life like that.
A god tortured by domesticity.
And it gets stripped away from him every time. It's such an interesting way to look at the character that's, like, never talked about.
That's why the reunion tour at the end works, absolutely, because he's signing off with his family hub that he's built up. It is a theme of found family. We go from starting with the Tylers, because this is a Doctor who was born into an adopted family. The Tylers do adopt him. The Power State is the hub of the show. And then he wraps up the show with a father figure.
It's a shame. I've been yearning for more Torchwood for years on screen, and it's like, well, that's not happening.
Yeah. Let's hope Russell's friend circle has expanded beyond sex pests and Tracy Ann Oberman.
Oh, God, yeah. My favourite scene, my identity's built upon this scene.
This episode will try many times to explain the immortality gate, as if science is a factor at all in Russell's Doctor Who anymore. I think by the time we come to Voodoo Resurrection and Master Cults, we can just call it fantasy magic by this point. It's, for all intents and purposes, just the nanogenes again. Just have it be the nanogenes.
It would make more sense if it was them than inventing this thing from Torchwood, apparently, that was never shown in Torchwood. Actually, that's the point. Where the hell did this thing come from? Torchwood blew up. This grand prophecy about the Battle of the Ages just casually involves just cactus people.
So they're two heavy lifters.
There must be.
Who have caused this, like, world-ending event because they left a bit of alien tech out.
Yeah.
Which was just begging for a supervillain to come along and make everyone in their own image.
I mean, the Master pulls off this plan in, like, 5 minutes.
Oh, God, are we nearly at the end?
Oh, shit. Ah! We are.
Oh, alert. Barack's here.
Yeah, this was weird. Russell, why did you put Obama in the episode?
And it portrays him, like, as a hero about to solve the recession before he becomes the Master, and the Master rips it up. So canonically, America's still in the recession, I guess. It's a bizarre attempt to make the Master more exciting by giving him the Sith powers. Like, picture for a second Delgado in this story. It just doesn't work. Across all of the specials, I love how scared this Doctor is.
Oh yeah, he's completely out of his element all the time.
It makes him vulnerable and selfish, always looking over his shoulder for this Knox prophecy. And that's the thing, because Ten isn't always likeable, because he's a Rusty Davis character. All of his leads are very morally dubious people.
Yeah.
But never before has a Doctor been slightly unsympathetic in their regeneration story. That might have something to do why people don't vibe with this end of time business.
I think people from Classic Who are too used to the Doctor being, like, practically perfect always in that. I'm not saying he was.
Yeah, you even catch John Pertwee saying this. All the best moments from Classic Who are when the Doctor does show some humanity.
The man has just had, like, his chance of happiness taken away from him again after all the shit he's gone through. Of course, it's like, this poor man, like, he needs a hug.
I think with Russell, not only is he such a passionate writer, but he prioritizes character drama above everything else. He was never going to leave Wilf in the cabinet. It's never on the table, but let him shout at the gods for a bit.
If I was to meet any Doctor, it would be the 10th Doctor, just to give him a hug.
I'd give him a pat on the head, and I'd get lots of hair gel in my hand.
I was going to say a very greasy hand after that.
Ow! Oh god, this shit's spiky. Okay, so here we are in this nuts finale.
The best scene.
You love
I
it.
do. It's so goofy. It's fucking perfect. It's like the perfect mix of comedy and drama. It's like, this is inherently funny. It's an entire planet of John Sim laughing at you for your awful takes.
But I think all of that, which is good stuff, is squashed by seeing the John Sim in the top right corner doing a Teletubby stance.
I can't. I think it's just funny.
The thing is, a lot of my criticisms and the things I love about part 2, they do overlap with part 1. I think you were onto something, bud. Because at the end of the day, you put 2 actors of this caliber in a room together, and it's just going to be gold regardless.
Always. Like, this part definitely has a lot of its... I've noticed a lot more lower moments in this story than I ever have before. I think my score's probably about...
No!
Probably like 6 or 7-ish now.
Sam, you ruined Doctor Who for me. That's the title of the video.
You've ruined my feelings. Merry Christmas. It's a Christmas experience.
This definitely was our whale, so I'm glad we've come together in this Christmas season to talk about a pretty good episode of Doctor Who.
Merry Christmas. I hope everyone watching this has seen the new Spider-Man.
Okay. Are you plugging... You're plugging Spider-Man. You're plugging the MCU Spider-Man.
Yes.